Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a freezing Carrow Road. I'm going to try and be a bit steadier this week rather than rocking the camera around. So I will do my best with that. But I probably will move as well because it's freezing and my hand is a hand dropping off kind of night here at Carrow Road. Which Norwich defended a bit like at times as well. Finished it 4-0 to Manchester City, the defending Premier League champions, who looked every bit a significant degree better than Norwich City. And it was a fun game initially. I have to say, the first 30 minutes were keenly contested. I think both teams was just sort of trying to score the first goal, and it was a bit chaotic in terms of just the brazen attacking attitude both teams were showing. There was a lot of spaces and a lot of really good opportunities. Angus Gunn made some outstanding saves. I don't know if half of them counted because they seem to be after offside decisions. Both teams hit the post. City really early, as in Manchester. Sorry, oh dear, Manchester City did so really early. Norwich then did so through a Grant Hanley header after a wonderful Pierre Lees-Melou cross, and that was quite the moment really, because had that have gone in, Norwich may well have been tempted to dig in. It would have been a tall order though. But had Norwich got themselves ahead in the game, who knows? Instead, though, there was a slight mistake from Max Aarons on the half-hour mark, and Raheem Sterling basically repeated the trick of Wilfried Zaha from midweek and bent a beautiful shot inside the far post. And in a game like this, it becomes very difficult as soon as a team like Manchester City have taken the lead. What was interesting, I suppose, was that you just kind of felt if Norwich City could keep the game, as close to 1-0 for as long as possible, you never quite knew what would happen, because it did look like Norwich had opportunities on the counter. They were carrying a bit of a threat. They were taking the game to Manchester City. They were occasionally winning the ball quite high, which was leaving it as a kind of a 2-3-3, a 2v3, and those sort of opportunities. So they were quite promising in themselves. The problem is they then conceded a ridiculously soft goal, just literally within a few minutes, a minute, probably. I think it was within 2 minutes of the start of the second half, and then that's that, really, isn't it? There is nothing else, and the game just sort of unravelled from there. It's hard to put into words how comfortable Manchester City seemed for the most part. So it was Phil Foden, great feat, and he managed to score that second one just from a few yards when no one could really get close to him and the cross wasn't cut out. Then Raheem Sterling scored a header from a few yards out to make it 3, and then they had a penalty, which I couldn't work out if it was really soft or if I was looking at it too subjectively. And then Dean Smith repeatedly called it pathetic. So I'm either he is likewise, or maybe, it did feel soft, sort of Grant Hanley coming across Delap, and it felt like it's not Grant Holt's fault that Delap wasn't very strong, just went over. But, I've seen Andre Mariner referee a lot of football matches, and the way he took to that decision is the way I've tended to see him referee football matches. So no particular surprise there. As it happens, Angus Gunn made a great save from the penalty, but it only actually left the ball to roll to Sterling to complete his hat-trick, and a perfect hat-trick at that. And I have to say, for someone who seems to have been on the fringes at times of this Man City team at Premier League level, and there's been talk he's not happy because of the lack of game time he's had and his influence, he's still got it. I would have to say, I'd be surprised if anyone didn't want to take Raheem Sterling if they got the opportunity. And yeah, I don't want to sit here talking about Manchester City. The gulf in class is huge. If you think back to the performance against Liverpool compared to this at the start of the season, the 3-0 defeat, this Manchester City team they're so efficient, but I think, and they play beautiful football. They can move the ball so crisply and quickly. It's so accurate and precise, and their movement is something else. They've played today with no recognised striker. Phil Foden playing as a number 9, or false 9, I should say. Yet they are getting into positions where they've basically got loads of wide overloads. They're crossing the ball and heading it back across the goal from the far post, back across goal at the far post. They've got players free at the far post when there's those deliveries going in. I mean, there was nothing actually particularly subtle about what they did in the final third today, I thought. It was almost surprising, but they're just very good at it. And they're such a strong, complete side. And quick, obviously, as well. They've just got everything. And they're probably not as exhilarating as Manchester City teams I've seen, but they are probably the strongest Manchester City team I've seen, and one of the strongest I've seen in the Premier League. I mean, it is completely bizarre that Manchester City hadn't won a Premier League visit here in their last three, because it wasn't just the 3-2 victory, but it was the 2 goalless draws in the Premier League before that. When someone reminded me of that yesterday, it was Kyle off of PLP. I had to double check it because I couldn't believe it. So I think probably law of averages, they were going to do something like they did tonight. And so they did. I mean, could it have been different? I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, again, Kenny McLean had a great chance. Norwich worked it really well. He's got a free shot on the edge of the area, centrally, and he misses the target. A lot of Norwich's shooting was sort of right down the throat of Ederson. So it does take a lot to beat him anyway. But that was a great opportunity as well, and probably worth flagging up. From looking at social media while I was watching the game, Max Aarons was coming in for a bit of stick. I mean, Sam Byram came on, but I don't think there was anything noticeable. It's just the quality of the opposition, I think. If Max was playing like that against Burnley, I'd have more of an issue. And I'm not going to sit here trying to judge whether Max is ready for a move to Bayern Munich. I'm just looking at it from what Norwich are trying to do. And, this is kind of an irrelevant game to what Norwich are going to face and how their season's going to be defined. Their season's going to be defined by playing Newcastle and Brentford and Burnley here, and trying to go to Southampton and doing something, and Leeds, which will both be difficult games in themselves as well. So they've just got to ride this out. They've just got to ride the trip out in the Premier League to Liverpool, which in some ways will be tougher than this one. Especially away from home. Norwich's record against Liverpool is probably worse. Well, it certainly is worse recently. So, we'll see how that goes. But, it was a start for Billy Gilmore, and he did okay, I thought. I mean, it switched back to a 4-3-3, which wasn't a surprise. In fact, the team was pretty much what I expected. And as I said, I thought, again, we saw Milot Rashica can't really seem to do it for 90 minutes, and I think that's his own fitness as well as teams sort of cottoning on to the threat he carries. But he really does look a threat in the early part of games, and the way he carries the ball forwards is so important to Norwich. I mean, again, if they lost him, I feel that would be a significant blow, I must admit. Brandon Williams came in for a bit of stick throughout the course of the game from the Manchester City supporters, obviously for his United connections, although it was noticeable they only really started doing that once Brandon went on a brilliant run. And I just kind of liked that, because it was like, oh, we've noticed who he is now, and we're going to give him loads of stick, because, he's a United kid, isn't he? Oh, yeah, let's give him loads of stick. So that's come from him doing something that they all went, oh, that's lively. And, they just gave him a load of stick, and I don't think Brandon particularly wilted, but it was what it was. And so that was that. And Josh Sargent was back in the team today. He did okay. Again, I struggled to be too critical either way, or even to analyse it too deeply, because it was very difficult. I thought he actually looked a bit sharper in the second half. I just wonder if he's still feeling his way back from his illness. And then the probably big blow is that Adam Eder came back into a recovery day on Friday with an ankle and knee problem. And he has been scanned for that. It would be a shame if Adam now missed a few weeks, or even worse with that injury. It has been scanned. They don't know how bad it is. I think they're hopeful it's not too bad. But yeah, I guess we all hope that, because Adam's been doing well, and it'd be great to see him have an impact in games where Norwich can do more than they could possibly do today, because Norwich got absolutely swatted aside by Manchester City, which does happen in all of the elite leagues in English in European football. The teams in the Champions League and the teams that have got a chance of winning the Champions League, they thrash teams at the bottom of the table if they want to. You can sometimes trip them up, but you can never underestimate how difficult that is. And that's probably what I wanted to finish up on, a point which I haven't really liked, to be honest, the last few days. Now, Dean Smith did a great job in the press conference. he made sure everyone knew that Norwich believed they could try and do something today, as he should. And, spoke well, and the team really gave it a go. And that's really good and really proactive. And obviously the abiding memory everyone has now of Daniel Farke is that he was completely defeatist. He had no possible way of taking on massive teams, and they were pointless, they were futile, they were hopeless games. Yet he managed a team that beat Manchester City here at Carrow Road. And I think that we should just dial down on the whole element of that attitude. Now, maybe it became that under Daniel Farke to a degree. It became that Norwich couldn't compete, and maybe that was residual. It was an evolution from Norwich struggling, Norwich, not having the money that he wanted for them to compete properly, and maybe it became an excuse. But I don't think it should be lost that Daniel Farke was not a primary man who wanted everyone inside the stadium to dream and believe. It was one of the first things he said, and he very rarely stopped saying it. And that Manchester City result was incredibly special. And it was incredibly special because normally something like this happens. So there we go. There's Mr. Holker. He's going to give you a wave. There you go. And yeah, I'm done on that note. So we all move on swiftly. I'm sure we'll have a look at it at Manchester City. It was far from a disaster, but it's also something that needs to be brushed off quite quickly, learned from, something to learn from, and then head on over to Anfield next weekend and hope for something a little less painful. Maybe. Have a lovely time of it. On the Ball podcast will be back on Monday. There'll be other stuff on wherever you're watching this. I'll try and get some more videos out. Thanks for leaving any comments and questions. I'll make sure I read through those at some point and get back to any that I can. And theathletic.co.uk for the fallout from here and a couple of other bits I'm working on over the course of this week. And I will see you at Anfield, if that is the next time I see you. Next weekend. Let's get rid of that. We've seen that quite enough, haven't we? I think I've covered everything off there. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio!